that.
You know what comes to mind now is one other sore issue we still haven't been able to get a hold of, get a grip of, and that has to do with the Chibok girls. As we talk about deadlines, as we talk about the countdown to December end, we still haven't been able to get some categorical statement from the Nigerian government on the whereabouts of Chibok girls.
That's a sore point, Sule. A very sore point indeed. And let me tell you, from the beginning, I had some concerns about the processes or events as they unfolded. That really gave me a lot of reason to be curious about Chibok girls. Now, if you look, could there be a correlation between the increase in the use of girls as suicide bomb couriers and the Chibok girls? These Chibok girls have largely remained faceless. We cannot append a face to any of them. Now, I understand in some cases you cannot release pictures of this kind of people because that may actually put them in danger, but not really in this case. If I recall the trend of events when it occurred, the first threat that was actually imminent on those girls post-kidnapping was they were going to be married off or sold off as sex slaves. If we had responded with putting their pictures out, even those who take the delight in pedophilism wouldn't have bought that product because the face was everywhere. And then when it comes to the way it was handled, I know those girls were supposed to have been preparing for school start. So to prepare for school start means you have probably even registered. And if you register, you fill a form and append your picture there. Couldn't that have been a source to get these pictures out? Now, I find that very, very odd because the parents form groups to bring back our girl groups and they cry every day. But the world, even with the interest they have in the Chibok girls have been faceless. So if a Chibok girl walks right past me now, I wouldn't know.
That's a very, very, very important point you raised, and some have also talked about having some form of DNA, matching to see if some of these suicide bombers are actually from the Chibok girls. But if you're looking at headlines today, front page of New Telegraph, Chibok girls not part of suicide bombers, attributed to Ezekwesili, and she's also one of the campaigners for the release of the girls.
Yes, if she says they are not part of Chibok, part of suicide bombers, I salute her enthusiasm. I know what she's put in time and effort to this drive to bring these girls out. But if I speak from the perspective of intelligence and security operations, if you can get even the parents and take samples of them, you will be able to match on DNA basis on as many suicide bomb sites as possible. But then we haven't done that. And if you know how many suicide bombs have blown up along, you should be able to say, well, if there are chances they are, can we take the number of suicide bombers out of their number? Can we take the number of, we just append a probability to some who may have even lost their lives in the process?
Well, Captain Ali, talking about numbers, what comes to mind now is the reality that we have more girls missing than even the Chibok girls, because
of course,
if we have this frequency of suicide bombers, being females, young girls, that means there are so many girls that have been taken from their homes, maybe from the streets.
And that's putting it lightly. Let me put it to you another way. We all know who the Almajiri boy is in northern Nigeria. We have forgotten that for every Almajiri boy, there is an Almajiri girl. Hello? So are you beginning to see the source where these couriers could be taken from? Next, how do we begin to account for every female in that part of the country? Let's start with one local government in Maiduguri. I have this idea. I believe that if I pull all the, is it card readers? What did you call those things we use for election now?
Card readers.
The thumb, if I pull as many as went around Nigeria for elections and I took them to Borno State, local government by local government, street for street, I should be able to get the thumbprint of every female or as many females as possible and append the face to it. And we start from there. and it spreads gradually. The problem we're having, which the insurgents exploit, is that nobody is really on radar and accounted for in those areas. So if you took somebody off radar, nobody will know. And even if we knew, where do we begin to look for them from?
So it comes back to the issue of our institutions.
And orderliness. We need to get organized. The insurgents exploit our disorganized nature to actually
coming. Now, you've talked about the role of the citizens. You've talked about the role of the military and security agencies. Let's look at the institutions we have, for instance. We're talking about population here. We don't know the number, so to speak. We don't know the individuals' identity management, so to speak.
Exactly.
So how would all these institutions come into play now, even as we work down towards this deadline?
You see, it's one big party, if I can put it that way. You know, when you have a big party, you have caterers, you have musicians, you have technicians, you have security men, it's one big party, and everybody has a role to play. The simplest and the easiest way to start within any given community is landlords. Landlords, simply because as human beings, we're creatures of habit, we're social in nature, so we work across generic, routines. Everybody sleeps somewhere. Everybody sleeps somewhere. So can we begin to see umbrellas, bodies that cluster into groups, that cluster into regional bodies, up, on the landlord basis? Hey, landlord, you have a house, good. We just want to know who is that tenant. Let him fill a form, submit it to us, we log it. If he moves out, let us know. If somebody new comes in, let us know. That can be done even if we had to do it street for street. The local governments are just streets, a lot of streets. So are the wards and the councils. If you look at it at the national level, it's humongous. But if you decompose it and go down, it becomes smaller and doable. Having been able to do that, that's for the landlords. What about traditional rulers? Traditional rulers have a measure of influence within their enclaves. So traditional rulers will also do well not to just ceremonially make statements and tell us to cooperate or to be security. No. You can call chieftains, your baales, and have them actually drive the successes of what you want to do with your landlords. What if we left traditional rulers and came to more public institutions like the immigration or the customs? They could also drive this approach to rid us of suicide bombings proactively. How can the immigrations do it? The immigrations can begin to actually have representatives in either every ward or council, or even have liaisons with the required traditional rulers. And it goes on and on. The customs, even the civil defense. The civil defense also has a role to play. The civil defense should be able to be coming up with resilience plans. And these resilience plans are plans that when it happens and people are scattering and running helter-skelter, we should be able to contain it. And how is it done? Jingles, public awareness, visits.
Now you're talking about jingles, public awareness. Perhaps we can close on this and see what the people can also do in the fight. You have seen the Not In My Name campaign after the Paris attack and how much of effort the people have put in to support the government and the military in all of that. Are we doing enough as a people in the fight?
As a people, we tend to have this mentality that security is government thing. But you see, security, just like charity, which begins at home, starts with the individual. Security starts with the individual, not with the government. And if the individual himself has his security threat awareness perceptions optimal, then you're going to see what the government does become easier. Then the government itself must have to drive the confidence of individuals that they can bring about proactive security measures. We really need to see our security agencies interact more, probably even to an informal level. Let me give you an example. I once visited a country where every policeman is mandated to mentor 15 youths below the age of 18.
You're serious?
Yeah. Can you see that? Every policeman, it's mandatory. You must have 15 names, boys and girls, on your list, you are their mentor, role model, and they must not be more than 18.
Okay, talking about the international community now, President Buhari said with more cooperation, it would be easier to defeat Boko Haram. Would you say the international community has done enough?
The international community, you must understand, are stakeholders in what we call international politics. International politics comes with its subtleties. When I say subtleties, there are interests and there are factions and there are leanings. So, for me, whatever much the international community can do for us will still come to rest on the will by us to allow ourselves to be helped. You know, you could take a horse to the river, you can't force him to drink. And let's not also forget that there is a correlation between your vulnerability levels and how much you lean on outside for help. So when you go cap in hand for about everything, then you should also be able to consider that as you do that, you're also going to lose certain measures of right. So it's a balancing act. We have to look carefully at the kind of help we take. We have to look carefully at who offers the help. But then what's the best way? The best way is to look inward. As Carl Jung put it, he said, the man who looks outward dreams, and the man who looks inward awakens.
We'll stay on that, Captain Umar Aliyu, especially as we do the counting down from tomorrow, and security will be topmost all through the day and weeks to come. Many thanks for spending time with us here on Sunrise Daily.
Thank you very much for having me.
Another moment here on the program. We'll return shortly. Stay with us.